Hello everyone, welcome back to the Casino Co YouTube channel. I am your host, and today I'm going to be telling you the building blocks of Casino Co. And yes, not the Casino Co YouTube channel, the actual Casino Co entity that I owned from 7th to 8th grade. That's right, there was an actual casino company that I ran in my Christian charter school from 7th to 8th grade. However, the building blocks for this masterpiece started all the way back in 6th grade. So, without further ado, grab yourself a bowl of popcorn, grab yourself a beverage, get comfortable, because this is going to be a long story that spans multiple episodes. So, let's begin. Prologue. Rise from the ashes. So, this story all begins with a simple presentation that I was doing to my 6th grade class. I don't know what the presentation was for exactly. I think it was for a history assignment or something of that such, because I don't know where I would need to do other accents for. Anyways, for every single slide, I did a different accent for it. For one of them, I did a French accent, and forget the other accents, but they weren't important because the French one was the only one they remembered. And from now on, people began to think I had an alternate persona or of some sorts called French Mason. And this French Mason character gave me a brilliant idea. So one day I go up to my teacher, whom we'll call Mrs. Gulp. I'm like, "Hey, Mrs. Gulp, so you remember that presentation I did for class that one time? Well, maybe you could let me do like an actual performance, except at the end of the quarter." I don't remember her exact reaction either was she horrified or ecstatic, but she let me in the end. So one day, I'm standing in the restroom, looking at myself in the mirror. Stars were shining, lights were shimmering as I heard the loud hum of the restrooms in the restroom there. Look at myself in the mirror. I just practiced some lines. I had it all ready to go, and I was prepared. As I donned the hat, I had a whole costume, a whole ensemble that I would dress up in, that I do for these French Mason performances, which I'll put in the top corner of the YouTube video. And yeah, I walked into the classroom, slowly opened the door and went, "Yes, this is a French Mason." And you gotta understand, every single day was the same thing. Same boring lessons, same this, same that. It's school, nothing changes. So for all of a sudden, just this French student, not French student, but for this student that you know, just to walk into class dressed up as a French guy going, that's supposed to do a performance for you. The reaction was, as you would expected. Students sat there looking at me with absolute shock in their eyes. One of them, one of my good buddies for a long time, was rolling on the floor, howling with laughter. And then I go to the front of the room and give a legendary performance that would last for years to come. From then on, I would continue to innovate the French Mason performances, setting up, introducing one of my other characters, Goldie the Casinoraptor, who saw his debut in Casino Co. in the French Mason performances, actually. Goldie was a little action figure I would play with growing up. And even then, when I would play with him, he was a dinosaur that owned a casino. Not a simple concept, but a simple concept to understand nonetheless. And that idea really clicked with the student, so to say. The first puppet I used for him was the actual action figure that I used to represent him in the comics later on. But if that's a bit derpy, walking up to people with an action figure and talking to them with it, so my father suggested that I get a puppet instead. And that was probably fantastic. That was one of the best ideas he gave me for my company. Right here is the official Goldie the Casinoraptor comic. Hello everyone, I'm Goldie the Casinoraptor! Yeah, I have fun tormenting my cousins with this thing. Anyways, you can go now, Goldie. Okay! God, what a weirdo. Anyways, as I was saying, yeah, Goldie really stuck with the kids and gave me a good reputation, and I had a reputation, but kid who dresses up as a French person and walks around with a dinosaur puppet, they have an interesting reputation nonetheless. Anyways, later down the year, I introduced some Monopoly money that I would throw around. And by the way, I was not like I was doing this every day. Not every Friday, at the end of every quarter, I was got to do one of these performances. Anyways, as I was saying, I would sometimes reveal my hat, and I would take some money out of my hat, some Monopoly money, specifically 500s, and I would go and toss them all out to the students. I would just grab handful after handful of Monopoly money, and they'd go, wow, and jump up and down and try to collect as much Monopoly money as they possibly could. It was an amazing sight to see, and it really stuck to me, even to this day. And keep in mind that Monopoly money, because I'd eventually use that for something far, far greater. Anyways, moving down the line. Around this time, I think I hit puberty as well. I know. And I started to like girls for some reason. I know, crazy, right? Anyways, there is this one girl in my 6th grade class that was like the pearl of my eye. We're not gonna list names here so that you don't Google them or anything crazy, but let's think. What should we call her? Let's call her Juanita. There we go. Juanita was an interesting person. Total extrovert. But yeah. And, man, I haven't heard anyone use this word since like 2021 or 2022. But back when I was in 6th grade, I was a total simp. I had no idea what I was doing. I would do everything for this girl. I was like her little lapdog. But, yeah, I remember one time she filled up my water bottle for me or something, and I was like, I'm never gonna wash this water bottle again. And the rest of the class was just like, oh my god, this guy's such a simp. But, yeah, those are odd times. I don't know what I was doing. Then again, I was in 6th grade. What do you really expect from me? All these emotions and all these things that I've never felt before that I'm all of a sudden starting to somewhat grasp an understanding of. I even snuck a giant, box of chocolates in for her during Valentine's Day, and I'd write love letters to her, every other week, and I was crazy. But, yeah, man, I remember the heist for the box of heart chocolates. It was coronavirus time, or it was still 2020, so the coronavirus is dying down, so they weren't allowed to bring anything in for Valentine's Day, so I had to sneak it in. One of my buddies, we'll call him Wagoon, he, hid the box of heart chocolates in his hoodie, and he was walking out the door like, oh my god, I'm constipated. Totally not drawing attention to himself or anything, or the giant object that he had hidden in his hoodie. But yeah, eventually I got the box of chocolates to her, and she, the look on her face, she was just filled with shock. Because you gotta understand, this girl also has no idea what's going on. And this boy just walks up to her, confesses to her his love for her, and gives her a giant, and this wasn't just some crappy box of chocolate. This was the nice stuff. It had a velvet cover on it. It was nice. That girl was lucky that year. So eventually, close to the end of the year, she goes up to the teacher, and how I got this information was Mrs. Gulp told me, but she goes up to the teacher and she's just like, Mrs. Gulp, I'm really getting sick of this boy doing all these things for me. I appreciate it, but it's just a bit much. And Mrs. Gulp was like, you know what? He writes you love letters all the time. How about you write him a letter and ask him to stop, eh? He seems to be good at communicating through that way. So she wrote me a letter basically saying, you're nice, but please stop. And I was like, okie dokie. Obviously, I was a little devastated back then, but when I look back at it now, I'm like, thank God, I was making a real fool out of myself. I would still get comments about it from 6th grade all the way to 8th grade, which kind of got a little bit annoying. But yeah, that's my story about my Juanita. Now, after she dumped me at the end of 6th grade, I was kind of in an emotional spot. My buddies, which are both named Ethan, I'm not going to give them a special name because their names are already in the titles of books I've written on this channel. So, yeah. Anyways, my two buddies, who are both named Ethan, one of them was leaving, and me and Ethan.S were both very devastated about Ethan.N leaving. So, I was emotional about that, and also my 6th grade girlfriend dumped me, so I was a little bit devastated emotionally. So, one day, and also I was a really big fan of this video game called Undertale back in the days, which would greatly influence my writing later on. Anyways, one day I'd be laying in bed all by myself, listening to some of the Undertale soundtrack and some Undertale fan-made sounds, and I would visualize in my mind all of these fights, all of these encounters, all of these scenarios from Undertale, but instead of monsters, it's me and my friends that are the monsters instead. And from that idea, it was just like a whoosh, and I grabbed my pencil and I just started writing. I put my heart and soul and all of the negative emotions I was feeling back in 6th grade into this book. And I would write one of my best literary works, even to this day, the Ethan.S boss battle, which is literally just a rewrite of the ending of Undertale, specifically the neutral route, the Asgore fight. But yeah, that would be a fantastic book that I wrote, and everyone seemed to agree with me, even with the, you can be the judge of that. It's an audiobook on the Big Shot collection, so go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. Anyways, I went through a rigorous editing process, but eventually I got it out. And then during the rest of the school year, I'd work on a book called The Project, which would be a sequel to the Ethan.S boss battle. As you can see, there's a sign that says the Underground Trilogy on top of The Project. And I had eventually released this book at the beginning of my 7th grade year because I had to type it up after I finished writing it. I finished writing it like at the end of 8th grade, but I had to type it up during my summer break. During the end of 8th grade, sorry, wrong year, during the end of 6th grade. There you go. Whew, already 2 years ahead. Looks like I can't wait for the main part of Casino Co. Anyways, moving on, that was the story of the Ethan.S boss battle on The Project. Now, it was the end of my 6th grade year. It was summer break, and I really didn't know what to do with my time, and I was kind of sick of doing nothing. Sure, I had the 3rd installment of the Underground Trilogy to work on, the Into the Void, which The Project would set up, which I'll get to later in this video. But, I really didn't want to work on it. So instead, I worked on a set of stories that would set up the foundation of the comics I'd work on, called The 8th Wonder. This action figure right here, my dad got me from Target back in the days, and I used it for a small set of stories called The 8th Wonder. Now, unfortunately, I do not have any of the 8th Wonder books anymore because I deleted the files, but all I remember is that I would take pictures with this figure with my phone, and then I'd print out the images and put tape little text box over them. This idea of this kind of comic book format would eventually inspire the Goldie comics, which I got smarter, because trust me, there's an easier way to do what I'm explaining than what I was doing originally, and I eventually figured that out. So, as I sat there wondering what I was going to do with my life, I looked around at me and I saw all of my dinosaur toys, and I was like, what the heck? I'm not doing anything with these. They're not making me any money, and they're taking up room in my parents' house. What the heck? So then I decided, you know what? I'm going to do something with these things. So I pulled out my camera and I just started taking pictures of them. I had an idea and I thought about it for a while before I started taking pictures. I had recently gotten more use out of Google Slides back in 6th grade, and I thought, wait a minute, what if I took pictures of my action figures and layered them out on a Google Slide like a comic strip and put text boxes over them? Mind was blown. And from there, I used my action figures to create these comic books starring Goldie the Casinoraptor. Now, originally, I was going to continue working on Into the Void, and now, by the way, now we're in 7th grade. All that time I was talking about how I was thinking was back in summer. Now, we're in 7th grade, and I released Season 1 of Goldie the Casinoraptor after giving this to all the friends that wanted it. So, originally I released an episode called Season 0, Episode 0, which is in the Slotfest collection on my channel. And it basically said, hey, this is going to be the new format for my books after I finish writing Into the Void. So if you like this, please let me know. This is what it's going to look like after I finish Into the Void. However, eventually I would just scrap Into the Void and start working on the Goldie comics instead, which was a huge investment for me and was a much better use of my time. On every single one of these Goldie comics, I would tape a piece of Monopoly money just for fun. You couldn't use it for anything, but eventually I would give it a use. The last episode of Season 1 of Goldie the Casinoraptor was the Archives. This was kind of a monument for me because it signified the end of an era, sort of. Really, it was the beginning of an era. I thought it was the end of the era at a time because I finished Season 1. I thought I was going to take a long break or a long hiatus before I started Season 2, but I didn't. And it kind of just said thank you to the class and thank you to everyone who read my comics. It's really emotional, and I still remember writing that comic to this day. Good comic, though. You should go see it. I'm going to leave a link in the description to all of this stuff that I'm telling you to watch or recommending you to watch, so read the description. Now, let's talk about where it all began. I was sitting on the stairs one day, and I was thinking to myself, I was looking at all of the Goldie comics, just rereading them all, laughing to myself. Season 1 was great. And then I remembered that I would tie a piece of Monopoly money onto them all. And then I thought, and this would be one of the most important thoughts I ever had, let's do something with these. So I grabbed my iPad and started work on the first catalog. Yeah, I would go ahead and cite this for everyone on like a website or something, but I no longer have the file for it because I deleted it to save space. But yeah, as you can see, I have all of Season 1 up here for sale for, is this upside down? No, it's not. For 1,000 casino bucks or 99 cents. And I have a piece of candy on the bottom for sale for 5 catalogs. Not catalogs, no. 5 casino bucks. 500 casino bucks. There's literally just 1 casino buck. By the way, all casino bucks are worth 500. So 1,000 casino bucks is literally like 2 casino bucks. But on the second page, you could buy casino bucks. We have 1 stack of casino bucks for $1, which a stack of casino bucks is 7 casino bucks. So do 7 times 500, and that's how many it is. Then there's 2 stacks, which is $4. That's 14 stacks. And then there's a suitcase, which is 15 stacks for $6. Yeah, that deal's a bit broken. And as you can see down there, I have a character from a video game called Deltarune. Again, I said I'm an Undertale fan, named Spamton G. Spamton. He would go on to be the permanent advertiser for all of this Casino Co. stuff, which would really stick with the crowds. And down here, I have a little reminder to everyone to go check the back counter of the 7th grade classroom for some fantastic comics. So, what Rise from the Ashes explained was my French Mason performances, which were a crucial part. It gave me a more outgoing attitude towards my school and also increased student and teacher relations. The teacher gave me the ability to perform for the school. Well, I delivered upon the teacher's trusts by not swearing or doing stupid things in front of the class. Other teachers saw this and therefore trusted me even more, giving me the ability to do even crazier stuff in 7th and 8th grade. Then, my relationship I had in 6th grade gave me the emotional instability to write a legendary banger of the book, Ethan.S. The Ethan.S. Boss Battle, which took me out of my writing dormancy, which lasted from 3rd grade to 6th grade. Yeah, in 3rd grade I wrote all these Godzilla Tales book. Anyway, that's besides the point. My time of pondering during my summer break gave me the idea to write the Goldie the Casinoraptor comics, which would kind of be the groundwork of my company that I would start. And then the archives would be a monumental time for me. And finally, the catalog would introduce something for me to use these pieces of Monopoly money for, turning me from a performer into a tycoon. Now, let's talk about the story elements. Explain some of the lore and summarize the stories that I wrote during this time period of Casino Co. Starting off with French Mason. French Mason doesn't really have any major stories. He's just my twin brother that lives in my closet and eats garlic. The Ethan.S. boss battle follows the story of a kid, an advanced human from an advanced human race named Player, as he fights for survival in an underground world that wants him dead. He fights many other people down in this underground world and eventually has to fight the king of them all, who is named Ethan.S. It's a turbulent battle, but eventually something happens with Ethan N, who breaks the magical barrier, sealing all the original humans underground. Very much like the end of Undertale, as you can tell. The project continues in this underground setting. They're in the upper world now for a first part of the story. However, they eventually go back underground to help Dr. Gage move all his stuff from underground to the upper world. In the underground world, he does some experiments on Isaac and Player, who gleefully participate, and eventually they get sucked in by a portal in this mysterious lab who brings them into the void, which would be another book I would write in the trilogy. However, I never wrote it and instead wrote Season 1 of Goldie the Casinoraptor. Season 1 of Goldie the Casinoraptor would follow Goldie and his friends going on all types of goofy shenanigans in his casino. The first episode would be him getting in an argument with his father, one of my most famous episodes to this day. Those are just a few summaries of my stories that I wrote. Thank you for watching, and if you could, please stay tuned for the next episode of The History of Casino Co. And make sure to like and subscribe so I can reach 1,000 subscribers before I die of old age. Bye-bye.